Married at First Sight, Season 14, Episode 9, Jasmina and Michael. And I just want to read something to you, y'all. Hypocrisy is the practice of engaging in the same behavior or activity for which one criticizes another, or the practice of claiming to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform. In moral psychology, it is the failure to follow one's own expressed moral values and principles. When y'all look up the word hypocrisy in the dictionary, they need to put Jasmina's face right next to it, because she is the epitome of a hypocrite. I've been telling you since day one, Jasmina needs a mirror. She not only needs a mirror, she needs a room filled with mirrors. Every wall needs to be a mirror, because this girl not only doesn't see herself, even when she sees herself, she still requires others to be different than her. She's a hypocrite. Michael sits down and plans this little picnic and makes this little gift for Finny, her dog, or whatever else. Finny just about as cold as Michael is. He don't want to be even be bothered with Michael, just like Jasmina don't want to be bothered with Michael. Finny don't listen, and neither does Jasmina. So Michael, I don't know what the hell you gonna do. Michael says, Jasmina, what's the best way to communicate with me? And she says, well, just talk to me. You know, the problem with you is you talk at me, you don't talk to me. You mean like you doing right now, Jasmina? Hypocrite. She says, no more having a tone when you talk to me. Just talk to me. You mean like the tone you got right now? Hypocrite. You notice she don't talk about yelling and screaming and being aggressive no more, because I don't think Michael ever did it. We're starting to find out that when Jasmina says Michael is yelling and screaming, really what she's saying is Michael is saying some things she don't want to hear. Whenever Michael says something Jasmina doesn't want to hear, she calls it yelling, because she don't want to hear it. She told Michael that whenever you get all riled up and you want to yell or scream, just say you need a breather. And then Michael said, well, you was yelling too. And she said, yeah, well, I only yell because you yell. Hypocrite. No, that ain't the way it works, Jasmina. You don't get to do something you told someone else not to do. Because when someone else does something you told them not to do, you're supposed to do something different. Then why don't you get up and walk out the room? Instead of telling Michael to get a breather, why can't you do it? You know why? Because you're a hypocrite. She says, oh, I wouldn't have yelled and screamed if you had been listening to what I told you. You know what that sounds like, Jasmina? It sounds like when you just told Michael not to tell you what to do. Hypocrite. Jasmina says that Michael is disrespectful, but then she goes on to tell Michael that it's basic knowledge about how to have a conversation. So you basically calling him dumb? Guess what? That's disrespectful. That makes you a hypocrite. Because if having a basic conversation is common knowledge about how you talk to a person, then I don't understand why you sitting here and don't know how to have one. I guess it's because you're a hypocrite. All this calm down, I'm getting annoyed. Well, you're annoying me, Jasmina. You're annoying me right now watching you on TV. You're basically saying, can't nobody tell you anything about yourself. Anytime someone tells you something, you want to correct their tone. You want to correct their words. You want to silence them. But you know who got you together? Keisha Knight Pulliam on the after party. I'm going to do a video on that for you guys. But let me tell you, Keisha Knight Pulliam got into Jasmina. And damn near, when you saw the face on Jasmina when Keisha Knight Pulliam said what she said, you would have thought it was the first time Jasmina's ever heard these words. And that's part of the problem. Somebody has never told Jasmina about herself. And when Pastor Cal came to that house, he missed a big opportunity to tell Jasmina about herself. He focused way too much on what Michael needed to do differently, and he gave Jasmina no constructive criticism, and she needs a lot of it. What Jasmina has this way of doing is she never has to get to any real part of the conversation. She never has to get to the point of where she needs to do something differently, because what she has is this tactic that a lot of people have. They focus on you. They focus on you the entire time. So what they say is, before they have to do anything differently, they give you a whole list of things you have to correct. So they just get to sit back and keep doing their same old bullshit. And that's what Jasmina does to Michael. She spins around. That man was damn near sweating out there and had a stroke. Because what she does is she makes Michael focus on all the things he's doing wrong. And he says, well, when you fix all these things, Michael, then I'll do something. But here's the problem. Everybody got flaws. Everybody got things they need to work on. So if the only time Jasmina decides she's going to work on something is when Michael is perfect, guess what she never has to do? Work on shit. You know why? Because she's a hypocrite. They cut to this scene. They show Michael coming home and them having dinner and everything, asking each other how their day was. So Michael drops the bomb on her that this was the anniversary of her brother's death. And Jasmina says, oh, I wish you would have told me. Well, why would he tell you, Jasmina? You're not a safe space. I've told people this before. You want to know why men lie to you and men don't tell you stuff? because you're not a safe space. Nobody is trusting women like Jasmina, the ice princess, the negative, critical people with all their deepest thoughts and pains. Nobody wants to share that with you, Jasmina. They start playing this game about how they've been in love before, and Michael starts saying he's been in love before once, possible a second, and Jasmina says she's been in love 3 times, possible 1. And I'm like, how you in love, Jasmina? You ain't even had no boyfriend in the state of Massachusetts. I don't believe none of these stories from Jasmina. Jasmina makes stories up. I'm telling you, she embellishes stories. She makes up stories to make herself look a kind of way. And I'm telling you, I don't believe none of her stories. I would need to talk to all them other men. First of all, she starts telling the story that the way she knows that she was in love was because she would get giddy and miss a guy. Well, that's like a vacation. If men don't live in the same state, everybody's going to be giddy when they see the man. Because guess what? It's like a vacation. Who ain't giddy for a vacation? If you got to travel across state lines, I bet you are giddy to see him. That ain't no real relationship when you have to travel across state lines and see some man every once in a while and you talking about you in love. You was in love with a fantasy, a stuffed animal, because the man wasn't even present. Michael says he was in love before, and he's actually saying he was in love with his past girlfriend. Jasmina might want to be careful because you know what? I can see Michael going back to that last girlfriend because he's probably thinking right now, shit, that was a whole lot better than this relationship. So Jasmina comes up with this idea. Well, I know it wasn't her idea. I know it was production because Jasmina didn't put forth that much effort to do all that stuff for no jam. Jasmina barely wanted to sit and talk to Michael, even say anything. So I know she didn't put together that little rendezvous. I know it was production. I know y'all did it. But anyway, Jasmina went along with it and talking about so he could be vulnerable. Why are we still talking about Michael being vulnerable? I've heard 15 million stories about Michael being vulnerable. I haven't heard one from Jasmina. Why are we still talking about that Michael isn't the one that's vulnerable and isn't open when every vulnerable conversation we've had is about Michael? So we hear the whole sad story about Michael and his brother, about how his brother got shot. And it was really sad, brought me to tears. And Jasmina sat there at the moment and she didn't cry, but she cried off camera. You see, Jasmina, see how not vulnerable you are? You didn't even want to show tears in front of Michael. You waited until you was out of Michael's presence to start crying. And you want to talk about vulnerability? Where is yours? Hypocrite. In the after party, she talks about the reason why she didn't cry in front of Michael because she wanted to stay strong for him. No, that's not what he's asking for. He's not asking for you to stay strong, Jasmine. He doesn't need no strength from you. What he needs is vulnerability, and you ain't giving him that. Michael running around talking about his emotions are in a box, and that's why he learned it from the death of his brother. Well, Jasmina's emotions are on ice. Frozen. How did your emotions get so frozen, Jasmina? Tell us that story. That's the vulnerability story we want to hear. Not all this stuff about you giddy to go run across state lines and see some man that you in love with. That ain't how you got here. How did you get here, Jasmina? But in the after party, Keisha Michael got Jasmina all together. She basically told her, you was wrong. She told him that, when Michael was on the after party, I got into him when he was wrong about the whole thing cutting you off on the boat. And she basically told her you was wrong. And not only did Keisha Michael tell Jasmine she was wrong, so did Noy, who was on the after party, and so did Lindsay, who, whoever. But anyway, they all chimed in and said Jasmine was wrong. And her face was one of shock and horror. It was like she had never heard it before. I really don't have too much hope for this couple. At this point in time, I'm pretty sure Michael's already calling up his ex-girlfriend because he's realizing this shit ain't going nowhere.